Hoi hoi folks, good morning, good afternoon and good evening wherever you are in the world. My name's Sean, aka Uncle Frogface, and welcome to today's video. If you're new here, then welcome. If you're not new, then welcome back. And if you are new, why not take this chance to hit like and subscribe to this channel, because we like to have fun with arts and crafts here, and today is a craft day, as you might have seen from the title in the video. We are creating a living piece of art, so I'm going to take you through the whole process of that today. And we're going to be doing it with this. So this is a lovely little orchid that I rescued from a supermarket in the UK. So it was originally bent quite forcefully and attached to this ring, and as a result it's not the best looking orchid in the world. This leaf down here is a little bit droopy, the sphagnum moss is all dry, the roots look questionable, but I have a real problem with orchids. I love plants, and I've got lots of different plants downstairs. I'm very much a plant dad. I have never successfully kept an orchid, and I have this tendency to overwater them. So orchids in the wild, they don't grow in the ground, they grow on the sides of trees. They're almost parasitic, but they grow into the bark of trees and live on the moisture that's collected in rainforests. You know, they're a tropical plant, so you also get different types of mosses with them as well. So with that in mind, my little goodie bag down here, I have also picked up this, which is a large piece of cork bark, which actually is very light, so perfect for a sculpture. We also have this here, which is some Spanish moss. The pot itself comes with some sphagnum moss, and I have some fishing line. So that, along with a few other bits, should be everything we need to make this sculpture. I'm actually really excited for this because I'm going to get to show you the whole process, and then I get a lovely sculpture to put on my bathroom wall afterwards. So I'm going to turn the camera around and try and find the best angle, because this is a lot to do all at once. But yeah, we'll switch around and then let's get cracking. Hello there. Okay, so slightly different angle. But I thought this would be the best way to see everything that's happening. So, I'm going to have a quick inspection of this orchid, and we will definitely be getting rid of this ring as well. So it's just attached with these little clips. Just to let you know, this was a set of rescue from a supermarket. This was originally £12.99, and then it had been reduced to £5.99. And then as I was leaving the supermarket, I thought to myself, oh, I might pick up one of those cheap orchids and give myself a little birthday present. And it had been further reduced to £2.99. So this really is a rescue. If I hadn't have picked it up, it would have just been thrown. Poor little thing. So yes, I'm very, very happy that we get to give this orchid a second chance. So here's our piece of cork bark. So this is designed for vivariums, for reptiles. And because it's cork, it's very light. You can also see it's very flexible as well. And it almost has some natural points it wants to break. So as I flex this, just here it wants to break. And just along here as well it wants to break. So there's two bits really that I'm interested in here. Not this middle section, but this part just here and this part just here. And the reason I'm interested in these is because of these crevices. So orchid roots will find their way into all of these holes and grow through and kind of give it a very solid foundation within this this piece of bark. So I think I could either score it on the back to get a kind of a definite break where I want it to go, or I could just give it a snap. So I think I might at the top here just give it a snap. Let's see how this goes. Okay, and that's a pretty clean break, and I do like this. That way as well would be quite nice. Interesting. Let's try it with this bottom piece as well. I actually don't want to break anything off Let's see. It's very messy, this. But I quite like this, but I quite like this bit at the top as well, even though it's quite straight. Could come with a knife and just cut a few bits away to give it a similar profile to the bottom here. So I think I'm going to do that. So as I said, this is just cork. So just like you have on a cork board, I'm going to get rid of that piece there. So actually it's very easy just to break and tear apart, but still nice and firm and solid. I think this means here, because this is flexing here, I think there's a nice root up here for an orchid root to come in and grow. So this is very, very messy. Let's put that down there, clean up a little bit. This unfortunately is just going to be one of those projects that is a little bit dirty. Okay, so we've got our foundation, and let's just check. Do I want it growing this way, or do I want it growing this way? I think this is a really nice anchor point for the orchid in the middle here. I think this way, because this has a couple of kind of natural points at which I can hang some of the Spanish moss as well. So to secure this to the wall, what I've got some of these picture hooks. So these are the kind of picture hooks where it would go into the wall like this. It has an angled pin nail, which means that the downward pressure on this is going to kind of keep it into the wall. I'm going to use this upside down so that the pressure of the weight coming down on it keeps everything in place. And I've got two of these, one here, one here. What I'm going to do is just press them into the back of this bark. Lovely. So now what I can do is with the fishing line just create a loop, a fishing line, hook it into those points, and then I've got a string at the back that I can hang this piece to a wall. I think this will probably be enough. This is monofilament line, so it's not braided at all. It's just nice and clear. Not invisible, unfortunately, but invisible monofilament line is not cheap. All of this here was actually fairly cheap. I think the cork bark was probably one of the most expensive parts, and that was about £8. Okay, so now we have a nice strong loop of line, and I can hook that into these two here when we're ready to hang. And I can just hang nicely on the wall, like that. Brilliant. Okay, now it's time to think about actually mounting the orchid, and again we're going to use the monofilament line, but we are going to use it to secure the orchid to here. So do I want it coming round the edges? Sure, I don't think that's going to be too bad. Yeah, I think that'll be absolutely fine. So what you could do is to punch some holes through the bark and then run your lines through and secure it in. You don't have to use monofilament line. You can also use string. You could use hessian or straw. You could use wire even. You are not kind of damaging the plant in any way. We're just using it to secure it to the piece of wood. In that case, let's start having a look at our little orchid here. Okay, so you can see we've got another spike coming off here. It all looks fairly nice. I'm going to take out this sphagnum moss and just put that to the side. So you can see the sphagnum moss is pretty dead underneath. Same for this piece as well, which is fine. That will revitalise with a little spritz of water, I'm sure. And then let's take out our orchid from its pot. So usually these have a plastic pot inside. I'm not quite sure what's happening here. Okay, we do have a plastic pot, but it's just wedged in. Wow, really tightly. And there's another piece of sphagnum moss, so that's been put down the side to keep it nice and moist. And then we've got a load of bark chips. I'm just going to tip back into there. This is an orchid pot, so it gives good aeration for the roots. And then let's have a look at this guy. By the way, I said that I love plants, and I do, and I have a fair amount of knowledge for plants. And my younger brother is actually a trained horticulturalist. So he's probably going to be cringing at what I'm doing here. But you can see now, here we have our orchid, and nearly all of the bark has been taken away. I don't mind if there's a couple of them. You can see we've got a fairly healthy root system. We've got a few dried up bits, but there are some really nice roots down here. A couple have been damaged just by virtue of the way these plants are managed. But I'm going to have a quick clean up here, and then we can start looking at actually attaching this to our bark. Okay, right, so we're now in top-down view, just so it makes it a little bit easier for handling everything. And I'm just going to decide whether I want the stems at the back or the front. So push that way, and if we do this way, that will also work. And either way works quite nicely. I think I'm going to put the main foliage part at the front and keep the flower stems at the back, and then in the future any other flower stems that come through, they can go whichever way they want. So now I need to think about where I want these roots. So this hole here really is where I want the main part of the plant to be. I'm being very delicate with this as well. And then I'm going to bring some roots up like this, and bring some of the roots down into some of these crevices. I'm pretty much going to let it do what it wants to do. I'm just giving it a little bit of guidance. These two are slightly stuck together. There we go. That looks beautiful coming down there like that. These ones can come up and over, and as a kind of an arrangement of the roots, I'm happy with that. All of the roots are going down, and some of them could definitely start to come upwards instead. Maybe this one here would come up. There we go. Okay, lovely. So I know it appears that this flower stem is pointing backwards, but it's absolutely fine. It will turn towards the front. That's not a problem at all. Okay, so I kind of want to give this a base as well. So I'm going to use some of this sphagnum moss. So this is still nice and moist. There we go. That's sitting pretty much where I want it. I'm going to tear some of this apart just to open it up a little bit so that this too can spread. That's our line for hanging. Okay, and I want to just give these roots a little bit of moisture. So orchids are interesting because they like moisture, but they don't like being wet. So they just like kind of being damp, and that's because they are a tropical plant. They live in rainforests. That's just what they do. Interestingly, vanilla is a type of orchid, which I interesting little fact there for you. I'm going to pop this one in here as well. And I think that's kind of where I want the whole arrangement to be. Some of these roots I might just tuck around the back when we hang it up so that it has a chance to root in. And then I will start hanging some Spanish moss as well. So I'm going to take some of this line, and I'm going to create a loop around the bottom. So let's see. If I stand this whole thing on the two pots it had originally, and this will give me the purchase I need. I just lost a flower bud there. This will give me the purchase I need. There we are, to be able to secure this all into place. Okay, so now we have our orchid secured. I'm going to try and disguise some of this line with the moss. There we go, so it's not too obvious at the front. And that's going to sit forward nicely, but be able to secure itself into the rest of the bark. Okay, so here we have everything set up as I want it to be. The last thing we have is this Spanish moss. So Spanish moss, again, is another type of moss. It's actually kind of an air plant, and it grows in these lovely long ribbons that just get longer and longer and longer. You see this hanging from trees sometimes in these great big long ribbons of green. So I'm going to take some of these. There we go. Trying not to separate it too much because I like the way it clumps together. Okay, that's a nice piece there. And this was from a seller on Etsy. I got this. I want to attach this in some places as well because over time the orchid will grow upwards, and I want the Spanish moss to be coming down, kind of cascading off of this. It'd be nice to hang some from the very top as well. We also have some of this moss. I might put into some of these pieces just up here. But this is me just having a bit of fun and placing it in a few different places. Okay, and I think we're about ready to go and hang this in its pride of place and let it settle in a little bit. Give it a spritz of water. Okay, so here we are in my bathroom. You can see the walls slightly moist here, but they are hung up. How about that? That is how you can take a rescued orchid and turn it into a living sculpture. And there we go, that is our living sculpture completed, and hopefully a now very happy little orchid in its new home in my bathroom. So you can see nighttime, it's very nice and secluded in the corner, and during the day it gets a nice amount of sun, which I think is what that little orchid will definitely thrive. So I keep looking down because while she's seen the video of put it up this evening and what it looks like in the morning, I've yet to film the morning part, and I'm just looking at the devastation on my desk. I'll post a picture of that right now. So yeah, I'm gonna go and clean that up, and I'll leave you with some beauty shots of the sculpture. I really hope you've enjoyed today's video. I really hope that you've kind of been inspired to rescue a plant yourself and turn it into a living piece of art for your home. And until next time, goodbye.